After months of negotiation, the global multinational corporation Renault-Nissan Alliance decided to rejig its equity structure of an alliance that has been going on for over 2.5 decades, almost 2.5 decades. What does it really mean for the alliance with the new structure, and how does that translate into India? We have with us Mr. Ashwani Gupta, the Global Chief Operating Officer of Nissan Motor Corporation, to share more insight onto this deal. Mr. Gupta, thank you very much for talking to Autocar. Help us understand what does really change with this new setup that you have created for the future.
Well, thank you, Ketan. So let's start with what we announced in London last week. We announced the reshaping of our global alliance, which is driven by three strategic pillars. The first strategic pillar is about creating the high value projects which are going to bring the performance to each of the company. India is one, Latin America is one, Europe is one, EV ecosystem is one, and many more to come. The second is to get into the strategic partnership in the disruptive technologies like electrification and maximize the economy of scale and exposure to the market. But the third one is to reshape the alliance, including the capital restructuring, to achieve the equal partnership. And why we want to achieve equal partnership is all about having a flexibility and adaptability to unleash all the growth potentials we have around the world. And soon after London, why we chose India to be the first flagship of this new alliance is because number one, we have 15 years of experience in India and we have learned this market in depth, good and bad both. And the second is India becoming the third largest market is with the right geo-economical advantage to not only grow domestic but also grow internationally with the export. So combination of our experience in India and the future growth potential made us to decide the investment of 5,300 crores in the product lineup in India.
Fantastic. So Nissan brand has been transforming, and we have seen you taking some strategic calls on pulling the plug on Datsun, doing away with the entry cars. You're focusing more on the B segment, and you're also looking at moving up the ladder. Does that translate into India as well? And what about the electrification strategy? I mean, we heard you sharing your plans about getting into the A segment EV. Could you just share the rationale and the thought process behind it?
That's a great question. So Nissan's strength, I mean, today 72% of our global sales come from SUVs. You know, we have Pathfinders, Muranos, Rogues, Qashqai, Juke, Petrol, Armadas, all are SUVs. So we want to bring back the Nissan brand, which is Nissan DNA, is SUV. The second, we were the first mass manufacturer of the battery EV, which is Leaf. We want to focus on EVs. The third, especially learning from India, the one of the key success factor of Magnite has been the connected. So we want to position the Nissan brand, which is creating value driven by SUVs, EVs, and the connected. And this is how we are going to position Nissan brand. Of course, Datsun was a great learning for us. And what we learned for sure from the Datsun is we should always look at how customer value the brand, irrespective of we think that brand should be valued. I think that's a great learning. That's why we want to go back to the Nissanness, which is SUVs.
And do we see that Nissan is getting translated into your existing portfolio as well? Magnite was something that was developed on a Datsun brand to begin with, and eventually we saw a Nissan brand. Do we see a front fascia and the product attributes like you mentioned, connected, HMI? I mean, is that how the brand is going to evolve, starting with Magnite?
I mean, India will be integrated in our global product and brand strategy. So which means you will not see a different face than what you see in US or Europe and so on. So India is integrated as an important market in our global brand and global product strategy.
Even the design and the feature sets, everything. And help me understand the CMF-A platform. You know, it was always a core for India. Now that you look at the future and the way the Indian market is also evolving to the next stage of more, premium cars and higher priced vehicles. What is the future of CMF-A platform? And then does that become like a core for you in the EVs? And you think that EV has more strength in the entry rather than in the top end?
Yeah. So first of all, today we have CMF-A ICE, CMF-D ICE, CMF-C ICE, CMF-D ICE, and CMF-E ICE. Right. We have 5 platforms in ICE.
Right.
Now, the beauty of EV platforms is we can consolidate our platforms. So we can make CMF-CD on the CMF EV platform. That's what we did with Aria. That's what we did with the next Leaf. Now you have second, which is CMF-B EV platform,
Right.
which Renault has developed based on CMF-B ICE and CMF EV platform. So it's a combination. It's a modular platform. You can always have a jigsaw with the modules. So this CMF EV, we will be using it for compact EV, which will be the micro successor in Europe. Now you comes to CMF-A EV platform.
Right.
CMF-A EV platform will take some modules from CMF-A ICE, but some modules from CMF-B EV. So this is how all of our platform strategy is interconnected with each other to maximize the return on entry ticket, but also to have more speedy development on the platform.
Now, so do you think that ICE-derived EVs is a more logical progression, or you think the skateboards can be expensive?
For sure, ICE drive EVs are not value for customer.
Okay.
That's why we developed CMF EV.
Okay.
CMF EV is the only EV platform.
Right.
That's why you can maximize the roominess, you can maximize the driving, handling, and so on. What I was trying to say here is some of the modules you can always take it.
Right.
So what we have learned on CMF-A ICE platform in India, definitely that learnings can be incorporated when we will do the CMF-A EV platform. That's what is the concept behind. But we don't want to do one platform which can be used for ICE and EV, because then that does not give you the maximum performance of the EV.
Fantastic. So we're looking at a CMF-A dedicated EV.
But CMF-A EV is dedicated.
That's fantastic. But that will call for a significant amount of investment. And you also mentioned about vertical integration yesterday.
Yeah.
And in the past, during announcing your gigafactory in UK, you had mentioned that India could be one of the potential bases where you could have a gigafactory. Localization is going to be a very critical element. Help us understand how are you going to productionize the CMF AEV plans that you have.
Yeah, I mean, the point is, in India, we always said that we will study, and this is very important to understand. We'll always study. Now, what are the key study factors? Look at India market today. We are talking about 0.5% electrification, right? Look at Europe; it's 19%.
Right.
Now, 0.5% of 5 million and 19% of 15 million, though are different. Economy of scale.
Yeah.
And when we talk about gigafactories, we talk about millions.
Right.
We don't talk about 100,000s. Now, why Europe is here today? Because they started in 2010. It took them 12 years with government support, with the regulations on the ICE, with the customer awareness about the environment. And after 12, 13 years, they're at 19% of electrification. I think India will be there one day. It's just a question of how much efforts we put in supporting the electrification as a natural transition. Because at the end, if I put myself in the customer's shoes, I will only buy the electric car. Number one, if it is performing better than ICE. Number two, the total cost of ownership is better. And number three, it's good for environment. 1 and 3 is very easy because we have already demonstrated. But number 2 depends on the total cost of ownership, depends on how competitive localization is in the country. And that's where we would like to work from now onwards. But it's not only about Nissan. I think this will be the challenge for everyone. And the more market transit towards electrification, there will be natural economy of scale. And I think we will get access to the competitive localization.
So, are you open to partnerships here? You've proven that alliances can work. Would you look at partnering local players or any of your global partners in the Indian market in order to achieve that cost benefit and the economies of scale?
I mean, how you define the partnership, right? When it comes to battery technology, we have We have, because we do it for last 13 years. Now, whether we want to get access to the industrial capacity, or we want to depend on the tier one suppliers to do that, that's something which we have to finalize from now onwards. But for sure, whether Nissan wants to invest in the gigafactory tomorrow morning, that's out of question because it's a huge investment.
Right.
But whether we can do it with someone in terms of access to the industrial capacity, access to the suppliers who have already invested in this, we will be very open for that partnership.
Even partnering another OEM in India, is that?
It's too early for me to say, but at the end, what partnership means. For example, if for example, let me say in Japan, right? We have a strategic partner for the KEV battery,
Right.
and this partner is not obliged only to sell to us.
Right.
So they can sell it to the other OEMs. So I think we have to define the partnership, but at the end, the goal should be how we get access to the economy of scale when the market has just started growing in that fashion. One more example, Ketan, I would like to give you. Yesterday I was reading in the newspaper that India has got lithium mines. Lithium mines did not appear overnight, right?
Right.
They were existing. But why nobody talked about it is because we never asked the question to ourselves. Why we asked the question to ourselves? Because we are getting aware of electrification.
Right.
So I think similar kind of opportunities we will see in India once we start talking about it and once we start asking the questions, what do we do with the battery, whether the economy scale is enough or not, why not to join hands to enjoy that. I think these kind of things will happen from now onwards.
Right. Sir, according to you now, are there defined timelines for the EVs? Because you mentioned 4 SUVs and 2 EVs. When do we see them in the?
I mean, we will start from 2025, but today is too early, Ketan, and we don't want to overpromise. We want to do our homework, and our homework for for EVs is how we do the competitive supply chain. Our homework, our challenge, our opportunity, whatever you can say. Once we are clear on it, definitely we will share. But to start with, we will start with the SUVs. Which is our core product lineup, because that's everything is in our hands.
Right. What about hybrid, sir? I mean, you have e-Power and e-Tech from the alliance partner as well. Is that a nice bridge to get towards a zero emission, you feel? Because in India, we've seen Japanese alliance partners, Toyota and Suzuki, actually capitalizing on that, and they've got good traction in the marketplace. Honda's also attempted that. Do you think that's a viable technology to look at?
Technology is something which should bring the customer value. When you look at 4 big markets, Europe, US, China, and Japan, you will see a dispersion in how customer value the technology. In Japan, it's more driven by hybrid because of infrastructure, because of regulation, because of production, because of competition offers, and so on. In China, it used to be ICE and hybrid, but now it is more ICE and battery EV.
Right.
In US, it's more ICE, and now because of IRA, the more advantage is to battery EV, right? So it will be ICE and battery EV. When you look at India, and when I see how the government is supporting the battery EV, I do believe that India will be ICE and battery EV, and it's just question of transition. So we as Nissan, we want to focus on ICE and battery EV in Nissan in India. If opportunity comes for e-Power, we will think over it. But primarily, we'll work on ICE and battery.
So that's not part of your thought process at this point in time?
No.
Right. Help me understand, I mean, this market promised a lot, and we've had a series of interactions in the past as well, and you did see India emerging as one of the top 10, top 5 markets eventually. It is now the 3rd largest market in the world, overtaking Japan, which is your home base. What are the ambitions, do you think, Nissan has with regards to India? Must have been hard just surviving on one model.
Yeah, I mean, when we do the business, especially in automotive business, it's combination of business portfolio, product portfolio, and the country portfolio. We sell in 190 markets. We have more than 40 manufacturing plants. We have more than 20 R&D centers. It's not necessary that each and every product and each and every market has to be profitable in the same way others are. What's very important is whether we are delivering a product which customers are aspiring for, In last 21 months, we have delivered 14 products,
Wow.
and each and every product has been successful. Qashqai and Duke in UK, Aria worldwide, Rogue, Pathfinder, Frontier in United States, Frontier in Brazil, Argentina, Note, Aura, Sakura in Japan, and so many.
Yeah.
So I think for us, India, we need to have faith and patience. And I think India standalone is important, but what is also important is what India is going to bring in terms of export potential.
Right.
Ketan, I mean, we have been interacting since long. We started Nissan India with just LCC,
Right.
17 years before we started the business as low cost country, which means that at that time we talked about copy localization and so on. But now India has transformed from localize the global model and then think of exporting it because it's a competitive base. That was India before. But now the India is do local and make it global and use the export potential to as an add-on opportunity.
Right.
So export potential is not going to offset the domestic potential. Export potential is going to bring in add-on business opportunity to the domestic potential, and that's a change point. We talk about software capability. We talked about 2,000 engineers yesterday. Now we have tied up with Tata Consultancy. We are using their 5 locations in India for the software development. We talk about connected cars. We talk about autonomous driving software, and these all capabilities exist in India. So India should not be treated as like a call center or a wire mesh data analytics. It should be treated as a center which is leading the digitalization and the software capability.
That's fantastic. So, what is the potential you see this market for Nissan perspective? Do you see India breaking into top 5, top 10 markets eventually? And you spoke about 80% capacity utilization as well. Are we talking about in the next 3 to 4 years? What's the plan like?
Now we also learned from our past. We don't want to set up the objectives. Right? Let objectives become the consequence of a very strong, robust strategy. We are not in a hurry. That's why, as I said, Ketan, even if in our tough times when we were struggling to get the cash from the banks and the markets, we went through leadership crisis, financial crisis, pandemic, and so on, but we didn't exit India because we believed in India.
Right.
And I do believe now faith and patience, they are the 2 words which are key. And just before, Ketan, you saw that I was with our dealer investors. Can you imagine these dealer investors are supporting us with one product?
Yeah,
I mean, they are businessmen and I am also a businessman, and I can understand that how much challenges they are having to sustain the business with one product. But that's where is the partnership important, and I think we are here for mid and long term, not for the short term.
Right. So on the exports front, just 2 more things on the exports front. You spoke about left-hand drive Magnite as well to the media. I believe you said 20% market. I believe you were referring to Mexico.
Yeah.
So till the time you get product portfolio in the Indian market, is that going to be a sort of a way to ensure that the operation remains viable? And
no, but the Mexico opportunity is not coming because we want volumes in India.
Right.
Mexico opportunity is coming because of the product competitiveness of Magnite.
Fantastic.
Because we are number 1 in Mexico, we need a breakthrough product in the B segment. Mexico has been great for Mexico, but Mexico is also great for United States. So that's what I'm trying to say here is India is no more export potential by default, and India is the export potential by the origin of the thought. India is known for exporting to Middle East, to South Africa, and so on. But to start exporting left-hand drive to the market, which is used as an export hub for United States, it's a great achievement. And that's where I think this the Magnite won the competition with the other cars around the world. Wow. To get the business of Mexico because of its competitiveness.
So does it go to North America, which means United States as well from Mexico?
United States is a totally different market.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. It's for Mexican market.
It's for Mexican market.
Just one last thing, sir. On the electrification front, your Sakura has done really well in the Japanese market. Do you think those kind of cars have potential in the Indian market, since you focused on A segment, and in India we've started seeing market moving towards B EV segment, and everyone's moving up. The small car leader in the market is moving towards a mid-size SUV. What's the rationale? What's the thought process? Do you think that the electrification should start from the bottom end of the pyramid?
I mean, people are people are not visualizing what will A segment EV will look like. You have to wait. We just can't imagine that today A segment car will be A segment EV. We have to just think, and for sure, what we have learned in Sakura, which is a K car, is in terms of packaging, in terms of performance. Definitely, we will bring that know-how and the learning into the A segment EV, which we will do here.
But it does not have to be a hatch. It can be an SUV.
It can be anything. We have to wait. Yeah, we have to wait.
So bottom end of the pyramid is what you think the electrification should start with, or you should look at the upgrader space, because that is where the market is moving.
The question is, it's our strategy. So we want to get into EV in this segment because in Japan we see clearly that India was first penetrated by Japanese brands. I do believe that technology, that handling, that driving on the EVs will help us in getting that. And at the end, what we are looking at A segment EVs is not only for India but also exporting to the markets where you don't have economy of scale. I do believe that it's always a chicken and egg story. I mean, if India is moving from 1.5% electrification to 2%, 3%, 4%, and then there will be a natural momentum. And once we are establishing on A segment EV, definitely we can move up because we already have B segment EV, we already have C segment EV.
So that's a starting point.
That's a starting point. But then you have to just copy paste the powertrain across your product lineup.
Right. That is fantastic. Thank you very much, Mr. Gupta, for talking to Autocar, and happy to see you in India. I know you have very little time, and happy to catch up with you in one of your fantastic Nissan SUVs. Thank you for talking to us.
Thank you.
Have a good flight back.
Thank you, Ketan. Thank you.
Thank you.